Richard and his straight hair could never understand the thorough in and outs of Falcon Crest. So they both agree they don't want his cheap jug moonshine backwater Appalachian. No shade to my people in Appalachian. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to thwart, the official gathering place for newbies, novices, and OG diehard fans of the golden age of prime time. I'm your host, Jet, viewing and reviewing the soapiest prime time storylines of 1984. We are back on the West Coast doing the absolute most with Falcon Crest, Season 4, Episode 13, Winner Takes All. So whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. So babe, no questions, suggestions, or concerns in the next 20 to 30 minutes. Everyone else in earshot, cool, quiet, picked out are your only options because we are talking about some stories. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is thwart. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of thwart. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jet. We're reviewing one of my favorite soap operas of all time today. Truth be told, all four. Knots Landing, Falcon Crest, Dynasty, and Dallas are on my top 10 list because, how could they not be? We are diving deeply into Season 4, Episode 13, Falcon Crest, Winner Takes. This is a very interesting episode because you have to review the relationships that you hold. Are they important to you? Are they sacred? Or are they pawns in your bigger scheme? Among the many things we're going to talk about today, my enemy's enemy is my brother or aunt. Chase is in quite the conundrum that I don't think I could easily snake my way out of. Fool me once, may try again twice. What do you do when you've been, what's the term? Once bitten, twice shy. I know that's a rock song. Forgive me, I couldn't tell you who sings it, but it's a good thought. What do you do when someone's played you more times than a little bit? How many times is too many times when you give them the second chance? Also, we have the triumphant and fully recognized version of Angela's bully. Angela is back on her bully, and it is a sight to behold. Is it possible that Philip's death is the best thing that ever happened to her? At least at Season 4? These, among many other things, will be discussed on this episode, so go ahead and pour yourself up something bubbly and bright as we jump into Season 4, Episode 13 of Falcon Crest, Winner Takes All. We're back at it again. This is something I totally expect for Falcon Crest, the mid-season lull. I was called out this week in the fan mail, and I appreciate that. And they're like, yo, why are you so hard on Dynasty, but you don't keep that same energy for Falcon Crest? Now, it was worded a little bit differently, all in love, but here's my thing. I feel like Dynasty comes out of nowhere with these sort of plot holes. Let's just let Blake talk for 45 minutes about this thing or the other, and we're all supposed to believe it happened. Whereas on Falcon Crest, they actually set the pace for the story to take the turns that it does. That's the only thing. That's the difference between extraordinary writing to me and just good writing. Extraordinary writing understands that there will be plot twist later on, but they put the building blocks in place, where I don't feel like Dynasty always does. That's neither here nor there. I am feeling a totally different way than I did between the two Dynasty episodes that I suffered through. I hate to use that word, but I can't think of anything else at this moment. And this episode where it's like, okay, they're building up to something, and there was enough action to keep me interested. I didn't feel like the storylines were coming out of nowhere. Even if they were new storylines, they were still pretty interesting. So at the beginning of this episode, you see Angela and Chase kind of just not really appreciating the fact that Francesca had left Richard a chunk of Falcon Crest, an equal chunk to the two of these two. Never mind the fact that they have been silently battling. You know that this real fight is about their hair, not really anything else, but it is what it is. And they have come to the conclusion that, you know what, my enemy's enemy is my what? That's a difficult word to fulfill when you understand that your enemy's enemy, or that both of your enemies are your family. So my enemy's enemy is what? My enemy's enemy is my blood. My enemy's enemy is my aunt. My enemy's enemy is my brother. How do you navigate this? This is the problem faced this episode for the Aviator Adonis. Before we jump into all that, we got to think about Angela. Now, Angela is back on her bully. I am fully here for it. I really do think that Philip's death is probably one of the best things that has happened on this show thus far, because she allowed herself to be vulnerable long enough to fall in love, quote unquote. We're going to go with that. I know if you're watching this like I'm watching this, that's not the impression I got, but this is what we're going to go with. Angela does not lay all her cards out in front of you, but she clearly felt a way about Philip, and his death has given her carte blanche on the villain era. She's like, you know what? I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna do the thing that I had to learn to do. This episode is no exception. So this whole bad girl Melly Mel situation where Melissa has inherited Falcon Crest after she gave up baby Joseph, right? Horrible situation, but by season 4, it sort of corrects itself. Shania Linda is deceased. She's no longer in the picture. Melissa is showing up like a present and loving mother. Cole is attracted to that. She's also showing up as a woman who has a heart full of remorse. I want you, Cole, and I'm glad that we have this baby together. But meanwhile, on the other side, Angela is back in her rightful place. She's back to her factory setting, but now she has to figure out how to get rid of Chase and now his bastard brother, Richard, who is a product of her husband and her arch nemesis, Jacqueline's affair. It's a whole thing, but you know what? Caution to the wind. She's on her focus. So this episode, she brings in the morally gray manimal, aka Craig Reardon, and he says, hey, there's a way that you can set up a trust that Lance can get everything because he is a rightful heir. And by the time Lance comes first in line, basically what we're doing is we are leapfrogging over Melissa. We're giving Lance everything you own while you're alive. Now, this could be 2 minutes before you die. This could be 20 years before you die. But it all goes to Lance, and at the end of the day, there ain't gonna be much left for Melissa. She's gonna feel the way, but she's out of the picture if you do this. Now, this is an interesting tactic. Think about it. Lance was always going to be her rightful heir because he's a man. I'm not going to be vulgar. She never, ever, ever considered Julia, and Emma we're going to call her whimsical at best. So that was never going to be a problem. So she brings Lance in, and Lance is a new man this episode. He's a new man this season, if I should say. He is his own man. He is running the globe. It's almost as if he's indifferent to what happens at Falcon Crest because he's seen this come and go time and time again. And all he's like is, okay, my grandma's on one or she's not on one, period, point blank. So she brings him into the office with Reardon. She says, hey, dude, I'm going to leave you a trust. You are the new heir to Falcon Crest. And he's like, that's wonderful. Well, can we wrap this up? I have a date with Maureen or Lorraine, whatever her name is. I still think of Maureen Prescott from Scream. Angela is none too keen with Lance dating Richard's daughter. But Lance is like, you know what? I don't really care because at the end of the day, guess what? You asked me to come here. I didn't ask for an invitation. You sent for me. I came. I don't really care if you give this to me or not, but I already know what's up. I've already peeped game a long time ago. My mother's dead. Her sister is a kookaloo. You don't have any other blood heirs. Joseph is related to you, but not like the way you want. So guess what? It's me or it's nobody. And with that being said, I'm going to go bang this girl. Love you. Mwah. Angela bides her time, and I know her by this point in the series. She's not going to let this go. She doesn't want this to happen, but at this point, he's right. There's very little to nothing that she can do about this union. Ooh, sometimes you got to eat crow. Sometimes you get a little salt. Sometimes you get a big glass of tea to wash it down with. She don't get nothing. She's going to have to accept it as it is. But that does not deter her from her villain arc. She still has business to attend to. What sort of business does she have, might you ask? Sweet, sweet Charlotte. That's right. Maggie's mother is back into the picture. Side note. Maggie found out that she was adopted at the beginning of season 4, right? She has confronted her quote-unquote adoptive father. She's found out that her quote-unquote birth father died in the South Pacific. I am not really buying that. She meets her quote-unquote birth mother, and there is no sort of hesitation in embracing this woman as her mother, which is very odd to me for a woman who only learned, a mere 6 weeks ago that she was adopted. She's all but eliminated the past that she grew up with to embrace this new woman. Now, granted, this woman is sweet as pie. She's very quiet. She keeps to herself. She don't bother nobody. But she does have a secret gambling problem. At least it's secret to Maggie and Chase. It's not secret to Angela because she is thorough, okay? She understands what it means to be in a position of power. Power does not mean the things that you own financially. It does not mean the monetary things that you check off of a list at the end of the year. It means you have information on all the people surrounding you. That is the biggest power move. One of those things happens to be she knows that Maggie's mother, Charlotte, has only recently left a rehab center, and she is, I don't want to say she's not rehabilitable. That's a funny word. But she definitely has a gambling problem. So Angela rings her up one day. Hey, girl, I'm so glad you're still here. Would you like to have lunch with me? And Charlotte's like, yeah, I don't have any plans. I'd love to do that. They go to Richard's horse track, the same horse track that Angela's trying to destroy, but that's irrelevant. She understands power. She needs this to happen. She, of course, puts a bet on a horse, blah, blah, blah. Charlotte tries to resist. But Angela's like, girl, go on and hold this $50. Yeah, put a bet on. She puts a bet on a horse, and it is caution to the wind from then. Let's reverse just a little bit because I feel like I breezed over something very, very important. My enemy's enemy is my ... when my enemy's enemy is my blood. What do? Chase and Angela have formed the Curly Coalition. They understand that Richard and his straight hair could never understand the thorough in and outs of Falcon Crest. So they both agree they don't want his cheap jug moonshine backwater Appalachian, no shade to my people in Appalachian type wine to be represented under the Falcon Crest label. So they are in cahoots as far as this goes. Now, this is a power play for Angela because it's like, she knows that Chase knows that she wants him out of there, but they have a bigger fish to fry. She's able to put that aside for the moment. And the way that Angela looks at things is like, okay, Chase is still he's my nephew, if nothing else. Just like I didn't let his little harlot of a daughter marry that deadbeat on like an embarrassing thing. Y'all not finna embarrass the family. That's what you're not finna do. So we're finna work together to keep Richard at bay. And this is a struggle. This is a weird thing. And this is a weird thing for me watching this because at the end of the day, Richard has been a friend to Maggie. He's been quite open with Chase. I don't really see what the issue is besides the super secret cartel thing, which is exposed this episode. I don't really see why Chase would go against him, but I think Chase has sort of tasted power. He is not as person as Angela is, but they decide that there's nowhere we're going to be making box wine with the Falcon Crest label. So they do whatever they need to do throughout the episode to keep that at bay. Does this ruin any chance of reconciliation of a friendship between Richard and Chase? I don't think so. I don't think so because Richard's not used to loyalty anyway. And Chase will eventually come around because at the end of the day, I think that he dislikes Angela more than he dislikes Richard, honestly. All right, with the Curly Coalition a little bit behind us, we need to move on to Florida Man. Now, he has been riveting for the last few episodes. I have enjoyed everything he's ducked behind bushes. He's done a little B&E. He's done a little bit of emotional manipulation. But on this episode, oh God, I'm ashamed of myself. Yes, I think he's cute. Okay, I'm going to admit it. Let me just go ahead and put everything out there. I think he's super cute. I think he and Lance are absolutely hotties. And I hope that's not the reason I believe him, but it feels like he is really trying to turn another leaf. He struggles with addiction. So he and Terry are outside And, well, actually, let me rephrase that. He is outside tinkering on Terry's brand new vehicle that does not need tinkering on. She comes storming out of the house and he's like, yo, I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited about us being married. And there's something about the way he's saying everything that slows Terry down. She's not as pissed as she was when she came roaring out of the house. She sees something. She sees Joel, not the Florida man, not the coked out, cracked out B&E Florida man. She sees Joel. And she's like, Joel, I can't trust you. And he goes, I know, I'm super sorry, I swear. I know you don't believe me, but I am getting clean. He reaches in his pocket and in a Bounty paper towel, he pulls out that Jaja necklace he stole from her. She's like, oh my God. And then he pulls out another ring and a couple other pieces of jewelry that he had stolen from her at some point. Now, I may be exaggerating on those. It's not that I'm exaggerating, I just don't remember. He definitely pulls off enough jewelry for her to be taken aback, to not call the cops on him. She's like, wow. So then he's like, okay, well, I want to marry you tomorrow. She said, no, not tomorrow. I need a little more time. He's like, cool, 2 weeks, and then we're going to get married. But in the meantime, in between time, baby, can I borrow your car real quick? She's like, what? Yeah, he wants to borrow her car real quick because there's going to be a battle royale at the end of the episode between he and Lance. Now, they're saying it's for pink slips and pride. I'm saying it's to solidify who the hottie is on this particular season. So I pose the question for you guys. Please reach out if you're listening to this on your mobile device. Check out the show notes. You can text me. Who is the hottie of this particular season? I want you to consider men, women, old, young. It does not matter. I want to know who you think is the sex symbol of season 4 Falcon Crest. You ever heard that song by Elle King, X's and O's? I love that song. I love a live instrument. I love sort of a raspy voice. But the song basically says that she's got these exes, she's got these people she's fooled around with from time to time, and they just keep wanting her, and it's a whole thing. She just wants to be in her past. They just won't let go. X's and O's. And we see this episode with Melissa and Cole. Here's a brief history for you new newbies. Melissa, bad girl of Creddy, had this whole vineyard, right? She bumps into Cole. They can't really remember the circumstances, but they become an item. She's focused on the future, though. She knows that Cole is, he's sort of the inheritor of the prodigal son, which doesn't seem very solid. So she decides to choose the heir apparent, which is Lance. She marries Lance while she's pregnant with Cole's baby. She ends up having Cole's baby. There's this whole thing. She wants to be like, this is your baby, it's not your baby. But it is. They do a whole blood test. Her and Lance aren't in love anyway like that. Like, he's just doing it out of duty, blase. Eventually, they start enjoying each other's bodies, so they're cool for a little bit of a minute, blah, blah, blah. Cole moves on. He marries Shania Linda, who's this Italian immigrant's daughter. She dies in a plane crash at the end of season 3, and that's that. So they have made their way back to each other, and everything seems Gucci, golden, and fine. However, Melissa is Melissa. Now, the tea is that Melissa ain't never been shy about putting somebody in her bed. She keeps a warm bed, period. She has that reputation in the Valley. So it's no surprise when Craig Reardon, the Anglophile, Americanophile hybrid, shows up on the scene and he wants her. Nicole clocks this because he understands who she is at this point, and he's a little bit scorned. But Melissa she has repented. She has given up her bad girl ways. She wants to be mommy dearest. She wants to be wifey dearest. She is not going to wreck this beautiful life that they have together. So what happens was, at the beginning of this episode, they're sweating, they're doing their exercise on the floor of their bedroom. I guess this is the beginning of the home video exercise craze. She's wearing a bathing suit with black, thick lycra tights and a sort of mesh bow. Not mesh, whatever the windbreaker material is. I really got to look that up. She's wearing that around her waist as a bow. They're doing sit-ups, crunches, and they're working up a sweat. It's super hot, super sexy, because Falcon Crest is not going to allow you to forget that they are sexy and they know it. If you don't do nothing else, you're going to clock this body, okay? So they're doing all that and the phone rings. Bling, bling, bling. Guess what? It's the manimal. The manimal's like, yo, this stallion, he's obsessed with horses. It's so weird. The stallion is sick. I need you to come over straight away. She does. She puts on her clothes and she starts getting ready. Cole is apprehensive, but he's trying to be cool because he's trying, this is a new leaf. I respect it. He's trying to be that guy. She feels a little bit uncomfortable because she knows that there's this tension and this sort of passion between she and the manimal. So she says, hey, why don't you come with me? He's like, no, I ain't gonna do all that. She goes, and it's not only she and the manimal, it's she and the veterinarian and another person. So they're in this horse stall and the horse is laying on its side. And your dear host, Jed, is like, I forgot that horses sleep on their side, I think, right? I'm more obsessed with the fact that they're horse actors. These people are, this mammal is pretending to be ill. He's on his side. So I don't know if horses sleep on their side or not. I kind of think they do. But they could be like people where they just kind of choose a position, whatever is most comfortable. Anyway, at some point during the night, and it's a long, long night, Reardon, the manimal, makes this move. He kisses her all on the mouth, and she's into it for like 0.3 seconds. She's like, no. I won't risk Cole and the baby. Blah, 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 blah. It's lovely because we see a bad girl reformed. Now, if you listen to one of my earlier episodes where I break down the rules and regulations of a soap opera, be it day or night, it is very hard for a bad girl to become a good girl. It's not difficult for a good girl to become a bad girl. I don't think I can ever buy bad girl Melly Mel going on the straight and narrow. Not to forget, 2 or 3 episodes ago, she banged Lance in his office to celebrate their divorce. I'm just not judging. We listen and we don't judge. Not judging at all. I totally get it. But Cole's a dud. I think the manimal is an even duddier person. But I don't know what her loins are thinking. I have no idea. I don't know what the biology is behind that, but she seems to be a little bit into it. But in her credit, she turned and she walked away. She turned the other cheek. Party people, dare I say it, this might be the best scene of this entire episode, okay? So, Cole feels away that Melissa stayed out damn near half the night. She comes into the wine house to try to kissy boo-boo face him. He's not having it. Why did you leave, Melissa? Why did you call me? And he's giving 3rd grade realness. It's not noteworthy. But it is noteworthy because now I'm making fun of him. She just leaves. She's like, yo, I didn't do anything. I walked away. But it doesn't matter. Once a cheater, always a cheater, yeah? So during this episode, right past the halfway mark before the end, Melissa comes bursting into their bedroom and we get a sexy chest naked scene from none other than Cole. Cole, a Falcon Crest alum at this point, does not want you to forget that he is also a sex symbol. We know Lorenzo Lamas can tomahawk kick like nobody's business. We know the Reardon can morph into a mighty morphin animal. He's a ninja turtle in real life. But what you're not going to do is play him. So he starts going off on Melissa. How dare you? I've been waiting. I don't know if I could ever trust you. You're just not the person I thought you were. Blah, blah. Now picture that. Picture Cole. Picture his 3rd grade scrunchy face. Because he's angsty. Ooh, I'm so mad. But picture this as an audience member watching this through the mirror, not face on. And he's chest naked the entire time. He's all like, I'm chest naked, I'm narrow hipped, I'm baby faced, and I'm pissed. You better show me some respect, Melissa. And she's like, for the love of God, I've been told you I'm not interested in the manimal. I like my men normal. He's weird. It doesn't matter because he is chest naked and he is loyal. So if you didn't check him, if you didn't clock him at the beginning of the episode where he was doing the jazzercise in his baby shorts, giving Gary Ewing a run for his money, you gonna clock him in his Bugle Boy jeans, chest naked, cussing out his wife. As corny as it all is, I enjoy watching Cole flip out a little bit. But ultimately, he's never going to be a star to me. I'm sure he's a star to somebody. He's not a star to me. We have a brief little overview of some of the smaller storylines this episode. So do you remember when we talked about Ben? Ben, who is Chase's Vietnam buddy. So he's this super soldier turned some sort of spy, as far as I can tell. However, his resume is suspect at best. He doesn't seem to be attached to any agency or any bureau, but he's doing all these things. So he's like a super soldier with high intelligence. Is he just paranoid, or is he just he's paranoid and happens to be correct? He has honed in on this whole cartel situation, and he's being very, very vague with Chase. At some point, he's in his house. Chase comes in, and he comes hopping out with these silicone gloves. And I'm like, man, you play too much. You play too much. You ever have a friend who is the biggest jokester, but they're also really, really wise? It's hard to deal with people like that because you understand innately that you need them around, but all they want to do is play and get under your skin. So Chase threatens to whoop his ass real quick. But then he's like, nah, this is what I found out. Your brother this, your brother that. The walls are closing in on this whole Nazi secret child thing, storyline. On another odd note, our girl Julia, when last we left, she'd been knocked out in the hospital just before she met Nazi child whose name, he's got too many names. I'm not going to bother to remember them, but he's pretending to be Dwight DeBlanc. I think it's DeBlanc. And he bursts in her room and he's like, hi, I'm Dr. DeBlanc. Now, for whatever reason, this brilliant wine scientist of a woman in her probably 40s, which means she has enough life experience behind her, is not clocking the fact that the hospital that she's been in and the bed she's been cuffed to and everything else is almost identical. She is none the wiser about this two-way mirror that is in front of her in the exact same position as it was in the hospital. So Dr. DeBlanc comes in. He's like, oh, hi, do you remember me? Oh, yes, you saved me. Blase. It's like, yes, darling, I think you need psychiatric help, but if you don't want it, that's cool. I'll let you go. And she's like, where can I go? People think I'm dead. My boyfriend's been arrested. There's literally nowhere else for me to go. So I think I'll just stay here in this coral gown and matching robe satin set, if you don't mind. And DeBlanc is like, yeah. Totally don't mind. It's clear the spirit is a little bit sweet on her, but that's it. That's all that we see from Miss Julia this episode. She looks lovely. She's healthy. I'm happy to report. Briefly, let's just discuss the power of leverage. Lance and Angela. Lance is walking around with his chest up, chin out at this point because he already is not that interested in Falcon Crest. By and large, it seems like it's an afterthought to him. And I think it's mostly because he's already running the gauntlet. What else does he need from his grandmother? He's not the same person he was 2 seasons ago. Terry does not understand leverage. So Richard gave her this opportunity. If memory serves me correctly, I thought he already gave her papers that made it look like her divorce was a real and true thing, but she does nothing. She sits on it. She lets Joel show back up. She lets him give her jewelry back in a paper napkin. But I also think there's something just really endearing about the relationship. She sees the old person. She sees the man he was before he went all coked out. And she does agree to allow him to borrow her car. So we're going to let that be the hottie of the episode race here in just a second. I just think she's such a sitting duck. Terry does absolutely nothing for herself. And I'm like, this man is, nothing he says is plausible. So as long as you can get your hands on those forced documents, it's going to look like everything was right. She has to present herself as a respectable woman, but she struggles just to do that. Last but not least, I feel like Melissa and Chase are actually in the same boat at this point. They're both so hyper fixated on destroying Angela, even if they're not thinking of destroying her in the same way. They're hyper fixated on it. And Chase's ego does not allow him to think clearly and think of a new solution. Melissa's doesn't either, because at the end of the day, it sounds like Melissa's crop is better than Angela's. So I do not know why she's going over and beyond to be the heir of this whole thing. Yes, she'd have 2 properties, but perhaps I'm going to chalk it up to her just being really, really young. I think there's ways around this. On On a lighter note, we've reached a part in the series where silent renovations have begun to take place. If you've ever watched a show that you really love and you notice after they come back from one season to the next that they've added a new room or they've renovated a certain room. This has happened on season 4 of Falcon Crest. I didn't clock this before, but Chase is coming into the house in one scene. And behind the door, instead of just saying like a regular brick wall that would lead to the porch, otherwise, there is now like this sort of sunken den. They have added an additional room, and they've also added a dining room into the middle of this faux castle. They also have servants, which I just feel is so different from the Chase and Maggie we met on season 1. They were kind of good old people. He was a soldier turned pilot. She was this writer. There's no way they would have a full staff, but now they do, but they haven't actually upgraded their home. So I'm very curious to see how many rooms they add going forward. All right, let's get down to the showdown. So Joel and Lance agreed last episode or a couple episodes ago that they just wanted to have a pissing contest about who's the best driver. And whoever wins, they win the pink slip. The same article I read about him marrying all these people, etc., said that he did a little cocaine during Falcon Crest. So it is very plausible that the dude was high as they did all of these scenes. But on the day of the race, Terry shows up, and forget it being SoCal, forget it being San Francisco. She's not near the Pacific Ocean. She's inland. But she has on the most you would think she was in Aspen versus California. So she's going to be the flag or whatever girl. She has her whole scarf. Joel, aka Florida Man, is in her yellow Lamborghini. Lance is in his little red 2-seater that he's always in. And the race begins. They're driving. Everything is cool. Florida Man is surprisingly nifty behind the wheel. So they're driving, and they come to the point where they're supposed to do this whole turnaround thing. Well, Lance is savvy. He understands the terrain, and he takes a shortcut. He turns first, and he almost crashes into Joel. And Joel's big piss, but he hits that turbo gas, and he boom, boom, and he wins. So it's like, yay, the winner's going to win $5,000 and pink slip to the car. So he jumps out of the car, and he's definitely had a little bit of booger sugar that morning, and he goes to confront Lance. And the contrast and the most interesting thing about this is that Joel, aka Florida Man, aka Hardy Boy, is pretending to be high, very much on cocaine. Lance, aka Lorenzo Lamas, is pretending to be sober, but he's most likely hopped up on that stuff. He is as calm as a cucumber. Lance is unbothered. Hey, dude, congratulations. And I was like, oh my God, growth. Yes, growth. Yes, maturity. Season 4. Lance is not going to rub it in the guy's face. It's like, good race. Well, Florida Man ain't having it. He's like, yo, you could have killed us. So he goes to run up on Lorenzo Lamas. And the last thing you ever want to do is run up on a young, fit, nothing else to do Lorenzo Lamas. Do you know what he does? He spins on his heels before I could even blink. Tomahawk kicks Joel, aka Florida Man, in his chest. If it was a map of Florida, he kicked him like in just south of Pensacola. Then he punches him in the face. It is quite embarrassing. It's like, how you win a race and then get beat down by the loser? Lance is unbothered. He goes to the car. He throws the $5,000 at him. He's like, congratulations. Then he speeds off. Into the sunset. All right, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I do. We know we are building up to something great. Do we think Julia is going to be a puppet for LeBlanc, aka the whatever his name is, Nazi kiddo? Will Joel retaliate because he was embarrassed in front of his bride-to-be? Will Terry go through with the wedding? Will Melissa and Cole make it? All these answers will be answered eventually on season 4 of Falcon. In the meantime, in between time, it's fun to come on a little love. It's fun to gamble with money, but you better always bet on yourself. That's my assuring you guys. Stay moisturized, stay hydrated, mind your own business, and keep all of your drama